clicker, so I'm going to be going back and forth. I just realized that was the one thing that I forgot. So this is digital citizenship, and hopefully if you read the description, you know that this is to kind of provide you with some resources that are available for teaching digital citizenship. So I might talk about some things that you are familiar with, but hopefully I'll introduce you to some that you aren't. So it's kind of like a beginner level in getting started. But maybe if you do know about digital citizenship, there'll be something new in here for you. So my name is Katrina Serrano. I am a technology innovator for the Davenport Community School District. This is actually my first year in that role. I was previously a teacher librarian, a middle school language arts teacher, and I've also taught elementary. So I have the ISTE standards. We're going to read them to you. Obviously the students, digital citizen, and then for educators, citizen. So I'm going to show you this video. I won't show you the whole video. Has anyone here attended ISTE before? Okay, so in 2018, ISTE was in Chicago, and Richard Culata is the CEO of ISTE, and he, at the keynote, talked about rethinking digital citizenship, and this, for me, really got me more interested in being more active and looking at digital citizenship and just kind of purposefully thinking about how I was talking to students about it in the classroom. I'm only going to show part of it, but it's a really powerful video.
First, I want to take a minute and share something that has been on my mind lately. And I'm going to do it in a way that asks you for some help in doing something about it. One of the great parts of my job, there are many great parts of my job, but one of my great favorite parts of my job is that I get to visit lots of places. And I see amazing things happening. But sometimes I also see areas where we can maybe have a little more work, an opportunity to do a little better. One of those areas is in how we teach digital citizenship. Now, digital citizenship, I will say, is the only element that is mentioned in the student, teacher, and leader standards. So apparently we think it's important enough to have it show up in all three. And, usually when I'm visiting a school, people will tell me that digital citizenship is being taught in their school. But when I ask what they teach, they usually say things like, well, we make sure kids know not to post inappropriate pictures online. Or we make sure they know how to make strong passwords. But those are important things. I don't want kids posting inappropriate pictures online. But that's not digital citizenship. That's online safety. And online safety is not the same as digital citizenship. Digital citizenship is about using technology to make your community better, to respectfully engage with people who have different beliefs from yours, to be able to shape and change public policy, to be able to recognize the validity of online sources of information. Digital citizenship, it turns out, is not a list of don'ts, but a list of do's. Thank you. You can clap for that. And never has it been more important than it is now. I grew up in Rhode Island, and down the street from where I was growing up, there was a professor, Don Liu, worked for the University of Connecticut. He did a great study. And what he wanted to see how good students were at recognizing false information online. So he had a simple task. He went to middle school students, and he asked the middle school students to write an essay on the northwestern tree octopus. And when they went to search for it, they found a very legit-looking site that Professor Liu had created, right? And the goal of the study was simple. It was just to see how many of the students called out the fact that, based on everything they know, that there could be no such thing as a tree octopus. Only one student in his study called him out. All the others handed in their essay, cited with information from the site. Look, there's even fake quotes and vocabulary defined, right? Handed it all in, never even questioned. Our ability to recognize truth from fiction is essential to our survival as a society. We used to teach that if it was in print, it was true. But as more and more information transitioned to the digital space, that was no longer a very good indicator. So then we used to say, look, based on the name or the graphic design of the site, that's a pretty good indicator. If it looked like an official news site and had a news-sounding name, it was probably a reliable source. But now you can register a URL and download a WordPress theme in 15 minutes and look more legit than the Chicago Tribune. So we have to evolve and develop new skills for distinguishing truth from fiction. These new skills, they don't just happen. They have to be taught. But here's the catch. They have to be taught in context. See, context matters. There's one thing that we know from learning science is that it's very difficult to take something, to transfer something that was learned in one context into a different environment than it was taught in. Like, reading a textbook about playing music is little indication that you can be successful when you have an instrument in your hands. We all do this, right? We learn something in one context, it doesn't transfer. The other day I was in church, and we had a great lesson about being kind to others, right? At the end of the lesson, I made sure I was the first to the door, to open the door for that little old lady that was walking out. And I made sure I thanked the teacher for the great lesson that she gave. And then I got into my car. There I was honking, cutting people off, trying to get out of the church parking lot, right? We know this. We know that it's difficult to transfer something learned in one context to another. If we only teach what respectful debate looks like in the classroom, we should not be surprised when our students aren't respectful when adding an opposing comment to the end of a blog. If we only teach students that the way to interact with their elected officials is by writing a letter to their senator, we should not be surprised when they don't think to turn to social media as a tool to make sure their voice is heard. If we don't teach students how to organize people around a good cause in a physical space, if we only teach them how to do that in a physical space, we should not be surprised when their devices are only used for entertainment.
So I'm going to stop there. It is an 11-minute video. I'm going to go through the whole thing. So one of the things that he talks about later, that if I was showing you this whole clip, is he talks about how there was a girl who, she posted a picture online of her in her, I think she was going to prom dress, and students, and he talked about how, not students, but that kids and different adults were leaving comments, and they were leaving mean comments about her. And then within those comments, someone said, "I think you're beautiful." And it kind of changed the whole way that the thread was going, where this had been posted. And I think that was a part for me when I was here and heard him speak, just talking about how to teach students, how to, that those kind of comments, they think when they leave those online that it's like something anonymous and it doesn't really affect people. I watched a video recently where some kids were talking about, well, when I put something online, that's different from saying something to someone's face. I think that that's a different thing. So if you have time to watch the rest of the video, it's really great. Now, something that I kind of disagree with him on is he says that digital safety is not digital citizenship, and what we see, like we're here with these 9 elements of digital citizenship, is that it's a part of digital citizenship. So just talking about that alone doesn't mean that you're teaching digital citizenship. So these are the 9 elements. They are actually created or thought up by Mike Gribble, and I'm going to talk about him in a little bit. So you have digital access, you have digital commerce, so learning how and these are things for adults too, learning when you're going online and you're purchasing something, being smart about that. Digital communication, digital literacy, digital etiquette, digital law, digital rights and responsibilities, digital health and wellness. Kind of makes me think of the keynote speaker yesterday, and she talked about Facebook and how it can make us feel. So thinking about when we're using social media and if we're using it too much, and then digital security. So continuing with that, Mike Gribble, he was actually the president of the Digital Citizenship PLN group for ISKI, and he's written a few books about digital citizenship. And along with those 9 elements, he has this framework that he feels like those elements go along with. Teaching kids about being safe, so protecting yourself and protecting others online, being savvy, educating yourself and educating others, social, respecting yourself and respecting others. And so there's a link to his site that kind of gives you more information about the 9 elements. In 2 of his books, I'm actually reading one of his books right now. I have it right here. And it's called The Digital Citizenship Handbook for School Leaders. So if you're trying to get started in your district with developing a plan, it kind of gives you a 5-year plan and how to start out really simple and then build from that. One of the most important things in here that it talks about, that I think is really important, that I'm hoping my district will do, is educating our teachers about digital citizenship. Because I feel like what we've done is we've said, okay, here are these lessons, teach them, and then that's it. We haven't done anything else with that. So out of the presentation that Richard Kulata did at ISTE came this DigCit commit. So this is something he's really leading. And it's a site that's continuing to develop. And so they have resources on here, and actually some of the resources are things that I'm going to talk about. So this site, you can join and pledge to commit to digital citizenship. They have a lot of resources here. Click on them. For digital citizenship. And then there's going to be a virtual congress that's going to be happening in February. They'll be putting information on here about it, so you'll be able to go online and kind of take part in the conversation about just committing to making this a priority. So close out of that. So I have two digital citizenship posters here. They're from ISTE that they provide a copy of. The first one, are you committed to digital citizenship? I actually have this in my office, so if you go to this presentation later, you can open this up to print it. And then the next one is ISTE came out with their view of the new digital citizenship. So they have these three components to it, that there's the digital agent, the digital interactor, and the digital self. And what's interesting about this poster is they did a survey, and one of the things they have in here for digital agent is 60% of millennial leaders say social media plays a key role in bringing change. And then over here for digital self, it says 47% of teens say they do everything they can to protect their digital identity. So that would only be 47%. So I think it's a really interesting poster, but that's another way to kind of look at digital citizenship. And then here are some resources for teachers to, and I feel like you can't see that very well with blue, but for teachers to educate themselves about digital citizenship. Google has their digital citizenship and safety course. It's just a course you can go online and take. It's not like if you've done Google certification, you just basically there's no test at the end, but we kind of give information about that there. And then Common Sense. I know a lot of people are familiar with Common Sense, and I'm going to talk about Common Sense Media later, but they have their digital citizenship training for teachers. So if you're going to teach the curriculum, there's a training that you go through first before you're teaching the lessons. And then this, I think, is really important. I'm actually going through ISTE certification right now, and one of the modules is about learning about digital citizenship, and I decided to complete an assignment talking about privacy. It's not something I ever really thought of in the classroom. When I'm picking a site for students to use, did I check to make sure that it's protecting their privacy? And so I did some research where I looked at some sites, main sites, like I looked at Class Dojo and I looked at Seesaw, and it's really interesting to read their privacy agreements because some of them state that you have to be aware as the teacher what's being shared, that they don't necessarily, whatever you provide them, you're aware of that. So it's kind of interesting. So I'm sharing that information with teachers now that you really need to take a look at their privacy agreements because it's not always what you think it is. So this course kind of just goes through that. So you just sign in with your Google account. And another thing, you can look on Common Sense Media. You can look up a site like Class Dojo, and you can see their privacy. They give you a little bit of information on that, on their privacy policy. All right, so let's get to the resources. This week is actually Digital Citizenship Week, if you didn't know that. And right here on this slide, so when you go to resources and you get this presentation, there are some digital citizenship Kahoots that Common Sense Media worked with Kahoot to create for this week, and hopefully they'll be available after this week. The teaching channel, I like the teaching channel with really quick videos to kind of show you in the classroom someone teaching a certain skill. And they have a playlist for digital citizenship. And I'm going to show you this first one, this teaching email etiquette. What I like about it is it's with younger students. And I have a third grader that just got access to her email, and she's emailing me all the time during the day. So I'm kind of having some conversations with her about, when are you emailing me? Like, are you emailing me while your teacher's talking, or while you're supposed to be on Lexia or ST Math? Because I'm not sure. And I've been gone, so she's been emailing me a lot. She's like, I love you, Mom. I miss you when you're coming home. But I like this video because it is with younger students and talking about, okay, the difference between you're emailing someone in a personal way versus like talk about emailing your principal.
Today, I want you guys to send an email to your teacher. The very first thing that I ask them to do is send a message to our principal, letting them know that they understand that this is not a personal email. It is a business email that they are conducting school business on. I want you to think about, when you talk to your teacher, do you talk to your teacher the same way that you talk to your friends at home in the neighborhood?
No.
What would you say?
Mr.
You would say,
Fisher.
Mr. Fisher.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the first things that I do, I talk the kids through. You know, you have two different people that I want a message. I want you to send a message to one of your brothers and sisters, tell them you need help to get this assignment in or you're going to be in trouble. What would you put if you were going to send a message to your sister, letting them know that you didn't get your math done last night and you need to make sure and get it done tonight?
Hi, Laura.
You'd say hi and give her name and then say, don't let me forget. Okay? And send a message to our principal. So how do those two emails look different? We're going to say Mr. Fisher and use his formal name because this is a formal email. One of the first things you do when you teach writing is you think about audience. We need to put a subject line that's going to let him know exactly what you're doing. This is a business professional email. You get kids geared into email is like that. You have to think about who your audience is, think about who might read it. You know, go back to those basic writing skills that we want kids to learn. Let's check yours. Do you have your subject line that's very precise about what you want him to know?
Mm-hmm.
You have his name in your to box, and you have your message. You may click send. Perfect. You want to start from the beginning, teaching the kids how to think about their audience and what they're writing. You want it to be right. So why not teach from the beginning how to do it right?
And then there's another video I'm not going to show you, but it's just about the impact of your digital footprint. You know, when sometimes we do this activity where you have students look up theirs. But I was reading an article recently where instead of the teacher having the students, because commonly they're not going to find things about themselves, especially if they're younger students, they looked up the teacher's digital footprint. So hopefully it was good, right? But they looked that up and were able to see things about their teacher online if there was anything out there. So I always thought about that with my younger students and my sixth graders. They're not going to find anything necessarily about themselves online. So this is something that's more for middle school, high school. This came out of Kentucky, and ISTE's talked about this a lot. It's the Digital Citizenship Driver's License. So it is available to everyone to use. I'm not going to actually fully log into it, but there's information about it when you get on here. You can kind of learn more about it and how it came about. But basically, there's just different scenarios that students go through and answer questions about, and then at the end, they can get their driver's license for digital citizenship. And I have on here, too, to go along with it. If you click on here, there was created a way to actually make a sort of license image for students that they go through. So more for like older students, middle school, high school level that was developed for. So many of you probably already know about Common Sense Media. They just updated their lessons recently for K-12. The thing that I really like about their lessons is that it includes assessment in it and different videos, and it touches on all the different parts of digital citizenship. So they have that media balance and well-being and privacy and security, digital footprint and identity, relationships and communication, cyberbullying, digital drama, and hate speech, and then the part that we sometimes might think of as separate, but it is part of digital citizenship, news and media literacy. So he talked about in that video, teaching students about citing sources. If you look at the ISTE standards, that is under digital citizenship, being able to evaluate sources and evaluate information online. And I was a language arts teacher, and I originally would teach my kids, oh, look at the site, does it look really good? Does it look quality site? You know, oh great, but we know now that that's not the case. One of the sites, I don't know if you ever reviews with students, it's called All About Explorers. It looks great. And I did a lesson last year with 6th grade social studies students, and then we started reading the information, and they're like, wait a minute. It says in there, and there's really easy ones and then more advanced ones, but they're like, wait a minute. It said that he died before he was born. That's not right. And they were kind of looking at that information and realizing that. And then we talked about checking your sources and saying, okay, if this doesn't seem right, then go find another source of information and match it up. So the lessons on here, I'll go to one like for 2nd grade. Usually they have a video, and then there is some type of assessment within the lesson as you get to the older grades that they can do, but I would have to log in to get to all that. I'm not going to fully log in. That's where a lot of school districts start, is with Common Sense Media. That's what my district's using, but that's all we're doing, unfortunately. So individual teachers in their classrooms are doing more, but overall, and we've broken it down into, they took these lessons and made them very simple, and that kind of upsets me a little bit, because I think we should just do the lessons as they are, not make them even more simple so that anyone can teach it, was kind of the goal. But I'm hoping that we're going to work on developing them further and using other resources. So I'm going to show you some other resources in a minute. But there are some posters that that they have about digital citizenship. They have this Legit-O-meter, I think is really cool. And if you go down, this is something that my building, we kind of made our own, but that device, so we're using devices now, kind of stoplight. So when students come in the classroom, they know, oh, I'm not supposed to have my device out right now, or we're going to use it later, kind of thing. So they have all these posters right here you can use. Common Sense Media also has classroom videos about different topics. This was the video that I actually was referring to earlier, where they're in this video, a student says, well, you know, when I'm talking to when I'm putting something online, it's different from saying something to their face. I'm actually going to show you this one. But let me go to the video library first before I show it to you. So there's actually videos for educators as well to help them. There's a video that's kind of an introduction to digital citizenship. There's videos for teens. And there's all the videos that go with the lesson, and lessons are within here too. But here's the digital citizenship kind of like introduction, something that can be shown to people that don't kind of have a basic knowledge of what digital citizenship is. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to show you this video. I'm going to close out some of these other windows first.
My favorite platform is usually Instagram, probably Snapchat, and regular iMessage on iPhone.
We text a lot.
Texting, text message, text or group chat with my friends. Group text messages,
Facebook Messenger.
they're always on it. I'm always with my friends. But when I'm not with them, I'm always talking to them on social media. I definitely say sometimes it's beneficial because you go home and you might have had an argument with your sibling or your mom, and you just need to talk to your friend, or you might need help with homework or something. Being able to always be just like a phone call or text message away from each other allows us to kind of establish a relationship that's closer.
Reaching out to the person right when you need them, so that you don't have to wait until you see them at school to talk to them. That definitely brings us closer.
Texting is like a
the easier alternative. Take out your phone and communicate with someone.
There are definitely things that maybe I wouldn't tell anyone in real life, but I feel more comfortable telling them on social media or online because it's not the same as saying it to someone's face as it is to text it.
I know that my friends, or not even just my friends, but my family or anybody I can talk to, I know that they are available to me.
Yeah, I never really feel depressed or anything like that, just because there's always somebody to talk to and always somebody that's there for you. That's kind of a good thing about social media.
I could not imagine what it would be like if I couldn't contact them so quickly. Our lives are so integrated with social media and contacting other people.
I don't think I can imagine not contacting them.
There can be an invasion of space and privacy over not just social media, but all forms of modern technology. We have each other's location 24/7.
Yes, there's been people that have contacted me for multiple times that have just been constant and annoying, that have just gone on my nerves.
If there's someone that is constantly reaching out to you and you don't want that person to be contacting you, that can be irritating and it's kind of a hassle.
Oh, my phone taken away from my friend texting me too much. I had to turn it off completely. I had to turn it off when I was in class because it just started making so much noise.
I've had a friend who's contacted me way too much, and one of the downsides is that I kind of avoid that friend in real life and at school, so they feel a little neglected, and it kind of hinders our friendship.
There's kind of a pressure that if one of us doesn't respond or keep texting, we're gonna not talk again.
I've had a friend contact me too much to the point where I've asked them to give me some boundaries and some space. I would usually tell them in a respectful manner.
Over text, you either just flat out say it or you kind of ghost them.
I used to have a friendship where we would text nonstop, we would get to the point where we get irritated with one another. That was nonstop, where you at, where you at, where you at, what are you doing, why are you not hanging out with me, why are you not that? It got to the point where leave me alone.
Sometimes we could be too much part of each other's lives, and it's not really good because we're kind of taken away from our own lives because we're constantly looking at theirs.
In the beginning, some people don't understand boundaries. I would have to constantly communicate to them that I have my boundaries, even through online, through social media. I don't find it as much as a problem because I've practiced it and I've learned to get better at it.
I do believe that technology leads to boundary issues. I feel like technology has created a sense of a really tight-knit community, but in a way it's too tight.
I feel that when we have conversations online, it kind of takes away the magic from talking face to face.
It definitely can get a little overwhelming, and it makes it difficult to hold conversations in real life because you talk about everything over social media or through your phones. And then if we do talk about something, it's normally social media related, or we have to pull out our phones to talk about it, so you don't really get to be in the moment with your friend because you're on your phone.
I think that video just kind of helps you to get an understanding of where the mindset is, of especially teenagers. I have a 13-year-old, and she took a break for the summer from Snapchat on her own because she said it was just getting to be too overwhelming, and she thought it was making her feel like she had to be on there all the time. But it is one of the only ways she was communicating with a lot of her friends because we don't live in the neighborhood where she goes to school, because she goes to school where my husband teaches at. But I think that's just a very good video to also show to students to think about that, when you're on there all the time, and the boundary setting thing is something that a lot of them might not think about. We hope that they would be taught these things at home, but we know that that's not always the case. So being able to kind of bring that into school and talk to them about those things is important. It's very important. So Common Sense Media also has games for grades 3 through 5 and 6 through 8. So there's Digital Passport for grades 3 through 5. So going along with their lessons, and they have these different topics. Password Protect is one of them. And then For grades 6 through 8, they actually have different scenarios. This used to be an app as well, but now it's just online. So they pick a character and then they go through different kind of scenarios that match the lessons. So a new resource that I learned about it is Steve that I'm looking at, and I'm going to go into a classroom and work with a teacher on teaching some of these lessons, is digital wellness and safety on EverFi. They actually have a booth down. I noticed that they're here at iTech. These are free lessons, and there's actually more lessons on EverFi if you ever want to check it out. They have a whole course library of lessons, but you just sign up and create a free account, and then they have 6 lessons here. So they have one on connections and community, and they have safety and privacy, screen time versus offline time and balancing that, technology and data, rights and literacy, and then evaluating content. So looking for accuracy and evaluating sources of information. So that's something new for me, so that might be something new for you that know about EverFi. And I would definitely check it out if we're looking for other types of lessons, because they have like financial literacy on here. Mostly, and they have social emotional learning. They used to have a digital citizenship separate curriculum, but I don't see that on here now. So I don't know if that went away or that's something that they're updating, because I know they are updating their lessons. So Google the Internet Awesome. Has anyone heard of this before? So they actually just did an update this last summer where they added in media literacy as well to their lessons. So they're free lessons. I meant to bring a booklet because they actually have a booklet, but you can get it online. And the nice thing about it is that it also is now integrated with Pear Deck. So if you've used Pear Deck, where you can make your lessons interactive and you can have questions that the students answer. So I'm going to go to the site and show you where that is. So when you go to educators, you can get the curriculum, you can download it right here. But then also, if you go down, they have these ready to teach. Making all kinds of sounds. It's the game on here. But they have these lessons in Pear Deck. So if you haven't heard of Pear Deck before, so it's an add-on in Google Slides that you can get, and you can add in where there's things where students drag things or answer questions, and so it's a way where you're presenting a lesson, you give them a code, and then they have that lesson on their Chromebook. So Google, the Be Internet Awesome lessons have already been integrated with Pear Deck, so if you go here, you can get a copy of each of the lessons and teach them using that. And then they also, I didn't talk about, have a game called Interland. That was what was making all that noise. And for each lesson, there's a game that goes along with it. So the Be Internet Awesome lessons are more for like upper elementary. It can be used, I have seen teachers use them with middle school as well, like 6th, 7th grade, maybe 8th grade. I wouldn't say they'd probably be useful past middle school level. Okay. So another place where you can find lessons for digital citizenship is Nearpod, and Nearpod's kind of similar to Pear Deck that I talked about, but it has a lot more features to it. So it's where you can take lessons and you can make them interactive. You can add open-ended questions and polls. They have a free version and they have a paid version, but I think the free version is just as good. But on their site, they have lessons that you can find for digital citizenship and also for media literacy. So this week, since it's Digital Citizenship Week, they have these lessons that you can download right away to teach each day. But then I'm going to go ahead and sign in and show you some of the free lessons they have. They do have a full curriculum that can be purchased by districts that has about 250 lessons, but I think the free lessons on here are, this is great. This one right here, if I hover over it, it's going to try to open it, is something for teaching teachers about the new digital citizenship, but then they have separated them out. So these are just a few of the lessons. Some of the lessons from Common Sense Media are actually on here, like the Digital Life 101 lesson is a 6th grade lesson. They have this lesson, Taking Perspectives on Cyberbullying, and there's a lot more. I just pulled a few to show you. And then media literacy. They have one specifically on Instagram for grades 6 through 8 and 9 through 12. What is a news story? And then sourcing your information. So there are a lot of free lessons on here, so this is just kind of another resource. What I like about these lessons, though, is that there's a lot of interaction with them. This is another one where students, there's a code, and then they have it on their device. So if you're one-to-one, they can have it on their device. They can follow along the lesson, and they can answer questions along the way. All right, so I added this one, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute because I found out something new about this recently. So if you haven't used vocabulary, I've been using vocabulary for a few years. They have hip-hop videos, and one of my favorite parts of vocabulary, just kind of a side note from talking about digital citizenship, is that they have the week in rap, so they actually have the news stories for the week that students can watch and talk about, and I used to show it in my homeroom, or we call it advisory at my school. But they do have a few videos that deal with digital citizenship topics like social media addiction, internet safety, source evaluation. They have a fake news one, and they have lessons that go along with it. It is a subscription. It used to be you could pay monthly, but they recently joined with Nearpod, so now it's an annual subscription, but I know some schools have a school-wide subscription to it. I'm hoping, I was talking to someone at, I did a virtual training with them recently. They were talking about putting the two together, vocabulary and Nearpod. I said, are you going to go back to the month by month? Because me, I don't mind paying $10 a month, but I don't want to pay $100, $120 for a yearly subscription. So I'm hoping that's something that will change, because I know Nearpod makes you pay annually. So when they join together, I don't know why they changed that, but it is a really good site to use. So an important thing with thinking about digital citizenship and what he talked about, Richard Kulata talked about in that video, was teaching it authentically. So it's great to have these lessons, but if you're not teaching it in context, like in the video with the email etiquette, then it's not really going to have an impact on students. So there's this article that I read recently, and actually it was part of the ISTE certification that I'm completing, that it's a little bit of an older article, but it talks about don't teach digital citizenship embedded. So this teacher is talking about using Seesaw and how there's features that you can turn on and off, like letting students comment on each other's work. So she said she turns that off at the beginning of the year, and then she actually teaches them how to comment and then turns it back on. And it made me think about when I'm using Google Classroom, I typically started out my year and just said, I'm just going to turn it off, because I got annoyed with the fact that I kept getting emails with them putting like, hi, and doing things like that. That should have been a time I wish I could go back and I could have taught them, you could use these comments to ask me questions about the assignment, and actually teaching them how to use that. So that's doing it in context and making it more real and teaching them how to use technology. So I wish I could go back and change that, because I just turned it off for the rest of the year because I found it annoying. But this teacher talks about how she used that as a way to teach students how to use this tool appropriately. Because I know we get nervous when students can leave comments. We have, last year I did at my middle school as a teacher librarian, I did where we used Flipgrid to do book reviews, and I let students leave comments, but I had to approve them first. But I did try to have conversations with the students about if you leave an inappropriate comment or you say something that someone's going to talk to you, so what kind of comments should we be leaving about someone's book review? What kinds of things should we say? So this last video that I have, and we're getting close to the end now, is about taking digital citizenship beyond just monitoring and just making sure that you're not on what you're not supposed to be on, to mentoring.
We got to moderate a Minecraft EDU session as a mother and son, and all these teachers came, and you were like so surprised because did you get to use Minecraft at home? Amy, you get to use it at home from school. Do you get to use it at home? No. And how were these teachers using it?
We're using it for like teaching every single subject and language learning.
Yeah, there was a language teacher, a high school language teacher, and you know, the talk about like using Minecraft to teach a content, but also to embed digital citizenship. And so that language teacher during that chat was talking about not only are students learning how to build language, they're learning how to build community. And I mean, that's not then having digital citizenship as an add-on to the curriculum. I mean, that's really embedded into it.
I think if we let it, and if we embrace technology and we embrace information and media literacy, that we'll be better as teachers and our students will be better learners and better citizens.
Going from monitoring to mentoring and, you know, really changing the narrative and the conversation about what to avoid, because that's really, you know, a lot of the conversation happening in schools. You know, don't do this, don't do that, and we're really focused on what to encourage in that positive aspect.
So I think one of the first steps we could take is just to start observing what's out there, what are you consuming, and not to put anything off limits. You know, like are you on Snapchat, are you on Instagram? You know, that's a powerful form of communication that the kids are doing right now. And so part of what we need to be able to do is take what they're doing in their own lives and bring that into the classroom rather than try to block that out and pretend it doesn't exist.
You don't have to be an expert in anything. You just have to have this mindset that I'm a co-learner, and this is just a great opportunity that we get to do together.
Okay, so I'm really worried about time here, so I tried to limit, and I know I went through some of the resources kind of quickly, so hopefully you can take a look at some of them later. But there are a few more I have. One of my favorite sites is Ditch That Textbook. If you haven't heard of it before, it's by Matt Miller. And he does a weekly Twitter chat where he has teachers come on and they share all these resources. So one that he recently updated is 30 must-have resources for teaching digital citizenship. And these are all ideas from teachers and what they do in their classroom. And then Shake Up Learning is a really good site. Casey Bell, she posts on her blog regularly. It's a more older article here, but it's a really good one. It's about 8 ways to support digital citizenship skills using Google. And then there's another site that has digital citizenship lessons for grades 4 through 8 in control. Code.org has an unplugged lesson for digital citizenship. If you haven't been on Edutopia, there's a lot of great resources on that site. It's from the George Lucas Foundation, so they have lots of articles and lessons. And then the museum, I've been to Washington, D.C., and the museum there is just a place you can go, and they have all kinds of different, the history of news, but they actually have media literacy resources for talking about, you know, finding resources online and reliable information and knowing that just because something's online doesn't mean that it's true. So they have a lot of great resources on there that you can check out and take a look at. So that is all that I have. Thank you for coming. If you have any questions, then you can let me know. I hope you take a look at the resources and you found something useful in this presentation. Thank you.